innocent Americans to settle with them and comply simply to avoid the vast expense of fighting several federal agencies at the same time. And that's not to mention conflicting regulations, that both of which cannot be complied with. Further, more than one-third of major federal rules have been promulgated without prior notice and comment by the public, which deprives the American people of any opportunity to weigh in on how new regulations might hurt them. The President now uses more executive memoranda and blog posts for major policy shifts. Controversial issues are also outsourced to boards and commissions, as happened with the new Medicare cutting board created by Obamacare. Regulations also imposed de facto by the issuance of federal agency guidance that, while technically not binding, nevertheless tells Americans how their federal regulatory overlords are interpreting the law, and that Americans should comply immediately or risk an enforcement action against them brought by those same agencies. An egregious example of just this happened days ago. The Department of Education and the Justice Department issued guidance claiming all public schools will lose federal funding if they don't let anatomical boys use facilities formerly reserved for anatomical girls. As one of our witnesses today summarizes, it would be, and I quote, "It would be an understatement to say that the transgender guidance goes beyond what Title IX, which was passed in 1972, actually requires. If someone had said in 1972 that one day Title IX would be interpreted to force schools to allow anatomically intact boys who physiologically identify as girls to use the girls' locker room, he would have been greeted with hoots of laughter. OCR is simply engaged in legislating," close quote. These unorthodox practices have led to the type of legal uncertainty condemned by James Madison. In Federalist number 62, Madison wrote the following, which is worth quoting at length. "It will be of little avail to the people that the laws are made by men of their own choice, if the laws be so voluminous that they cannot be read, or so incoherent that they cannot be understood. If they be repealed or revised before they are promulgated, or undergo such incessant changes that no man, who knows what the law is today, can guess what it will be tomorrow. Great injury results from an unstable government, and what prudent merchant will hazard his fortunes in any new branch of commerce when he knows not but that his plans may be rendered unlawful before they can be executed? What farmer or manufacturer will lay himself out for the encouragement given to any particular cultivation or establishment when he can have no assurance that his preparatory labors and advances will not render him a victim to an inconstant government? In a word, no great improvement or laudable enterprise can go forward which requires the auspices of a steady system of national policy," close quote. With James Madison's concerns in mind, I look forward to the hearing today, but I would point out that I started a construction business in 1975, and through the course of seeking to advance my professionalism, I found myself conducting seminars in multiple states, among other similar contractors similarly situated. I began asking the question, how many agencies regulate your trade? And I did that from state to state, and we came with a kind of a constant number. This is back in about, well, the late 80s or so. 43 different agencies had a voice on my construction business that regulated me, and that was consistent with many other companies. We came to essentially an average consensus of 43. And so I wondered what I'd actually done to my oldest son when I sold that business to him. There are more agencies today that regulate him. It's impossible to know even all the agencies that regulate your business, let alone know all of the regulations, statutes and regulations that regulate businesses. So I would submit this: not one business in America has a banner on their home page stating, "Notice, we are in compliance with all government regulations, conflicting or otherwise," close quote. You will not find that on anybody's website, because we know what would happen if you once bragged about being in compliance with all regulations. Regulators will show up to prove you wrong, and over time your profit margin goes into the red, and eventually you will no longer be in business if we unleash all of the regulators that are available to be unleashed on our businesses in this country or on our people. So I look forward to the testimony, And I would yield back the balance of my time and recognize the ranking member, Mr. Cohen, for his opening statement.